Catch-22 is a classic satirical novel by Joseph Heller, which was first published in 1961. The book is set in World War II and follows the experiences of Captain John Yossarian, a bombardier in the U.S. Army Air Force. Yossarian and his fellow airmen are trapped by an infuriatingly illogical bureaucracy and the absurdities of war. In Catch-22, the phrase, Catch-22, refers to a paradoxical situation where an individual is unable to escape a particular situation because of a contradictory or illogical rule or regulation. One of the most profound examples is Yossarian's struggle to stay alive during the war. He realizes that the only way to survive the war is to avoid flying missions. But the catch is that if someone asks for relief from these dangerous missions, it is proof that they are sane, and therefore must continue flying. This leaves Yossarian and his fellow airmen caught in a never-ending cycle of trying to avoid dangerous missions, while simultaneously being forced to fly them. The novel is an introspective eye-opener that invites readers to explore these paradoxes in their own lives. Some prominent examples include 1. The military paradox. As discussed, airmen must risk their lives to fulfill their duty. But if they do not want to fly the dangerous missions, they are deemed sane and therefore must continue flying. 2. Bureaucracy paradox. There are many instances in the novel where bureaucracy, red tape, and the misuse or abuse of authority stifle any potential for efficiency or a positive outcome. For example, the character Doc D'Amica is pronounced dead by bureaucratic error, and despite being alive, he is unable to convince anyone of his existence. We often face these Catch-22 situations in our lives when interacting with bureaucratic institutions. An example is when we are required to produce specific documents to prove our identity, but we need a valid identity to obtain those very documents. 3. Self-interest paradox. The novel presents characters who are selfishly focused on personal gain, often hindering their ability to see the greater good. One example is the character Milo Minderbinder, who organizes a syndicate that profits off the war, even if it means harming his fellow airmen in the process. This self-interest paradox can be seen in everyday life, such as politicians creating policies that benefit their own interests but cost them at the polls. 4. The absurdity paradox. Heller illuminates the absurdity of the events during war that result in a paradox of laughter and despair. A parallel in our own lives is when we find ourselves laughing at tragic news or dark humor, highlighting the cathartic need to find some semblance of hope or respite in a world often filled with darkness and negativity. 5. The meaninglessness of death. The random and senseless nature of death is a recurring motif in Catch-22, showcasing how unpredictable life can be. Characters perish in ridiculous accidents or confusing circumstances that underline the ultimate absurdity of existence. We apply this concept to our own lives, as we seek to create meaning in a world where we ultimately have no control over our destiny. Reading Catch-22 leads us to question our assumptions, recognize the absurdity of certain situations, and seek solutions to these contradictory and confounding aspects of human existence. This unique novel resonates with readers, leaving us with a disquieting sense of recognition and an appreciation for Heller's powerful storytelling. Joseph Heller, 1923 to 1999, was born in Brooklyn, New York, and served as a bombardier in the U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II. Heller's experiences in the military, particularly his time stationed in Italy, inspired much of the dark humor and absurdity found in Catch-22. The novel was not an immediate success, but it eventually gained a following and is now considered a classic of 20th century literature. Heller went on to write several other novels, including Something Happened and A Closing Time, a sequel to Catch-22 published in 1994. Throughout his career, Heller continued to use satire and humor to comment on contemporary society and politics.